A report in the UK newspaper The Telegraph reveals that ahead of the reissue of the James Bond novels in April to mark 70 years of Casino Royale, the books will be reviewed by sensitivity readers. Joining us on the KOGO News Live line is attorney Rob Crain. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Ted. How we doing?
Good. So first of all, what is a sensitivity reader?
Well, I'll tell you, that's the first time I've seen that title used. So I'm there with you. Obviously, when we're talking about this story today, it's folks who have gone back through Ian Fleming's novels and taking a look for any offensive material or a phraseology that they wanted to consider changing up. Yeah, sensitivity readers, a new one for me too.
Okay, so I have an example here. In Live and Let Die from 1954, so I'm quoting here. Bond's opinion of Africans in the gold and diamond trades as, quote, pretty law-abiding chaps, I should have thought, except when they've drunk too much. That's been altered to pretty law-abiding chaps, I should have thought. So is this censorship? Is this a move in the right direction? What's going on here?
Yeah, you're asking all the questions. And look, this conversation we're having is the way to have the conversation, a very positive, transparent conversation. We're navigating new waters when we're talking about these kinds of issues. You know, that phraseology that you're just read off, I mean, that applies to a good bunch of me and my friends at times in life. So, I mean, that was not a phrase that I read that jumped out at me. At the same time, too, one of the most highly offensive words that we've dealt with in our language, and describing black people using the letter N was also in these books and has already been removed prior to even these reconsiderations. So obviously there's a spectrum of obviously offensive versus is that really offensive? And, what do we do about it, if anything? And there are a lot of people who we heard on the report just a second ago, don't be touching those original transcripts. You can't go touch the movie Gone with the Wind. It's in the, it's in the books. It's in the can, so to speak, and that movie will be as it is.
Well,
redo it.
That's another good point. I mean, you mentioned a movie. So, like, I was thinking about movies like In the Heat of the Night and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And, movies like that were in the 60s that were kind of turning points for cinema. And, if you made those movies today, you probably wouldn't have certain scenes or certain language in those. So, are we going to go back and try to edit out every instance of racism there is? And then how do you define racism?
Yeah, and I don't know that that's healthy. And the answer is I don't think you can, but even if you could, these are great teaching opportunities for us with our children. We want our children to obviously appreciate what somebody who may be different than us, might be sensitive to. But how do you do that without having examples as well to compare to, and also teaching them our history? And we need to be proud of our history. We don't have to run from our history. So, having these examples is important as we go through life with our kids. We're not a perfect history. We're never going to be a perfect history. So, we need to be able to use these examples. And, again, even if we could root out every phrase that was hurtful to somebody else, that's not who we are. We're not perfect human beings. So it's one of these where I think this is a discussion to have, but it's also one to be balanced by what we all agree upon. We want our children to be knowledgeable about these things which might be offensive to others who have differences in us, how they look, what their faith is, what their sexuality is, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And we're going to need these examples to teach them that. So it's one of these where we got to stay positive with it and not let those loud voices on each side of the argument take over the conversation.
Attorney Rob Crain joining us. Thanks for your thoughts, Rob.
Anytime.